So why are you
Free
putting
country.
them down for standing and being individuals?
It's not so much that I'm doing it for them being individuals. I'm putting them down for making bad decisions.
So you're saying blacks don't have the common sense to make good decisions for themselves?
So he painted himself in a bit of a corner there. Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. We're gonna react to another Jessie Peterson video. This guy, to me, is kind of doubling down on the black oppression. I wanted to put this up and show you guys because it kind of, to me, shows how the other side, the left, are trying to make us still feel oppressed. They need us to stay that way. I just wanted to share this with you guys. Okay.
Not on an individual level. Do you think that black and white people should have equal legal rights, equal access to education, healthcare, that sort of thing?
We have that.
Oh, well then I'm glad we agree. That's the right thing, huh? There are a lot of black conservatives who I think don't vote in their class interests. For example, being a fan of Trump, I don't know about that one.
Do you think that blacks who support should not support him for what reason?
I think that a lot of them are mistaken, yeah. I don't think they meaningfully represent his interests.
Whose interests?
Their interests as black
And
people.
what are their interests that they should not vote for the Great White Hope?
Well, right now in America, the average wealth of a black person is somewhere in the ballpark of 1/10 the average wealth of a white person.
And why is that?
Probably redlining generational inequality, the fact that they were second-class citizens up until the 1960s, wide variety of factors.
Would that be the case if black people got married, worked for themselves, took over their own lives, raised their children, invest their monies, and did the same thing that white people are doing?
They do.
Rather than giving them something free like that or telling them that they're victims.
They just
Why
face a
not
lot
tell
of...
them the right, if white people are doing it a certain way, working, getting married, raising their children, seeing to it that they get a good education, if that worked for white people, why not recommend that for black people?
Because white
Instead
people
of
had the
using
benefit.
this lie about racism and slavery and all that crap.
Do you think slavery was a lie?
It's not affecting black people at all today. It's a made-up lie that is keeping blacks back.
I hate his demeanor.
Yeah, he's cocky.
He's cocky.
He's cocky, Aaron. This is what white liberals think of black people.
This is it.
You know what I mean? It's in disguise of we feel what you're saying, but really what it is to keep them superior.
Yeah.
And to make us always feel like victims. And this is why I can't stand to hear white liberals try to defend black people. They never want to, they're never truly helping you.
Yeah.
What they're trying to do is make sure you still feel
Oppressed. You still feel racism.
Mm-hmm.
You use those two trigger words. Let me tell you two trigger words that gets black people every time. Racism, white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
You say those two things, and they know that black people are emotional.
Mm-hmm.
They know that we go off. When you want to see a black person get animated, racism, white supremacy. Say those two things, and they will jump on board with whatever you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's being cocky. Jessie recognizes it, and I'm happy he
and
does.
as a black person that I think a lot like Larry Elder and Jessie Peterson and Candace. I believe that we aren't oppressed. I think that we oppress ourselves by decisions that we make. Because in America you can do what you want. You know what I mean? We have too many black billionaires and millionaires. We've had a president that had 2 terms for us to still be talking about it like this. But what I've noticed is that whenever you're a black person and you don't talk the whole I'm oppressed, it makes white liberals really uncomfortable and sometimes very angry.
So he's uncomfortable with Jessie right now.
Because they're used to the narrative
I know.
of feel sorry for me. They like that feeling because it makes them feel superior.
He feels superior, you can tell.
It's true, white folk have done a lot to advance their material interests in this country, but they did it while the system was in favor of them. White and black folks smoke marijuana about the same rate. Black folk get locked up 4 times as much for it. Stuff like that adds up.
And you know why that is?
I'm ready to hear.
Black can afford private lawyers. They need the government to give them a lawyer. And the lawyer that comes from the government is overloaded. He crowded with all the other black cases, so they're not going to get the same representation. But if they took control of their lives and made their own money and earn their own way, they can afford a lawyer just like you.
I watched a documentary on, if I can find the name of it, I will link it below. It was on Netflix, and they were doing a documentary about the public defender's office. And it just really, the load that they have for one public offender, I think they had like 45 cases to 50 cases, some more, for just one public defender. Some of the public defenders had a lot of cases with white people for marijuana charges, you know, and they were having the same issue as black people were having. But liberals are going to do this. They're going to make it seem like it's just because they're black. It's not just because they're black. It's because money. Mm-hmm. If you don't have money to get yourself out, you're just going to get lost in the system.
I mean, even do you think if O.J. Simpson had a public defender and not been O.J. Simpson, he would be sitting in prison right now for murder? Do you think that Bill Cosby would be out?
No.
His lawyer found a loophole. You know what I mean? Money makes a difference.
Money.
Because when you can afford your own lawyers, it doesn't matter what color you are. If you can afford your own lawyers, you're going to have a lot easier time with the legal system. When you're poor, I don't care what race you are.
Right.
If you're poor, you're going to jail.
Right. It's true. And this guy needs it to be about race, and Jessie is going to counteract this by saying, no, you know.
Well, what if we
started? Is that right or not?
Well, what if we
started? Is that right or not?
No.
So if black people work, save their money, earn their way, they could not afford a good lawyer.
Well, you could say all of this.
Are you saying they could not afford a good lawyer?
If they worked their way real hard.
If they did exactly what white people are doing.
If they did exactly what white people did.
Work hard, save their money.
Some individuals.
Would they be able to afford a good lawyer? Yes or no?
Some individuals, yes. Most of them, no. Most of them, no.
Why not? If most of them worked, saved their money, raise their children, invest their money, and did the right thing, why wouldn't they be able to afford a lawyer?
Improving your life as a group of people is a stats game. You increase the odds of people doing well by improving their environment.
Do white people improve their lives as a group or individually?
I think that both. Individually, you can work really hard, but as a group, we benefit.
Do white people improve their lives as a group or as individuals?
I would say as a group, there's more affecting white people than there is.
So white people work together as a group?
Yes, there's a lot of in-group
You're not
preference.
being honest.
No, I am. I'm absolutely being honest.
No, you're not being honest.
I'm absolutely
White
being
people
honest.
fight against each other.
Oh,
They're
yeah, no, of
jealous
course they
each
do.
other. They try to
we
get the
do
best
live.
from each other. They do the same thing normal people do.
They do, absolutely they do. I don't think white or black people
So
really
why
on a
do black
fundamental
people
level are
always?
different.
Why do you people always line black people up as a group? We're not a group.
Well, I
We are
studied
individuals.
So I studied this in school. I'm very interested
When
by
they
this.
go back and get your money.
When he said, I studied this in school, remind me of Michael Stivic on All in the Family, because Michael Stivic on All in the Family was him. He was him.
He was college
yeah, and they always know all the things about black people and what we should be doing, right? And how we can be we can't think for ourselves, right? We're gonna need that help. We're gonna need that white help, you know.
Which is which is the reason why one of my very favorite shows has always been The Jeffersons, because George Jefferson was a Republican.
Yes.
And he was also wealthy, and he came from nothing. He was on. They started the show off on the All in the Family show, and he made more money than Archie. And so he ran for office, and he was trying. But the thing is, it's like this is what happens when you go up to the when you start working your way to the top.
Yeah.
And you don't, and you know what I mean. And unfortunately, sometimes with black people, you got to leave your people.
Yeah.
Because black people, we have to see ourselves as individuals. Because what Jessie's trying to say is that white people don't need leaders.
Right.
They don't need to. They for some reason Hispanic people don't either, and neither do Asian people. But black people always need to have a leader. We're a monolith. We're all the same. You know what I mean? That's not true. Do you think Oprah is in the same position as I'm in?
Right.
No, she is. It's the way he's talking about it. She's white.
Yeah.
Because she's a billionaire. So is Jay-Z. So is Dr. Dre. All of these people, I don't care where they came from, but where they went is what really matters. And that's what I'm saying. I don't consider I'm black, but I'm not going to. Whenever I do things, I do it as an individual. I do it as myself. I don't
need a leader.
You know, right. I don't
or
need
movement.
to do, right. I move differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that is the problem. When we're saying, he's trying to say that, is it because of slavery or is it because black people make bad choices? Let's start with our home.
Yeah.
How many more, I mean, it's just like, how many more black families are intact compared to white families?
True.
You know, even Barack Obama said that. You're much more, when he said, that was what he said when he first got out. He's like, if you're if you are if you come from a single parent home, you're much more likely to be poor. You're much more likely to go to prison. You're much more likely to drop out of school. You're much more likely to be a single mother. You're much more so what he's trying to say is when you don't have an intact home, you are more susceptible to crime
stuff,
and to poverty and to oppression. But when you ignore that, if you're able to get out of it and you're able to mimic other people who are doing well, then you're less susceptible to that.
They brainwash you. They lie to
listen,
you.
no
So
blacks
why
do that.
you people put the blacks in a box to use them rather than telling
Tell you
them, being honest with them
Let's meet
about what they
50-50.
really
We can
need to do?
compromise on this. I'll tell you what, I'll stop treating them like victims. I'll say, hey, you got to work hard, you got to overcome your status. At the same time, I can support for institutional reform that gives them, say, for example, more money to the public defenders.
How about
on bunk
encourage them to
charges.
stop the crime? They will have to do the time.
I'll do both. Help their system and help the individual. I love helping
and
people.
So you don't think that black
Amazing.
conservatives should vote for Donald Trump?
Nah.
You don't think that?
I don't think anyone should.
You
but
don't think
especially
that
not
black
conservatives.
conservatives should have their own minds to do what they want?
Oh, no, they should be able to do what
Do
they
you
want.
think they should vote like the radical blacks who are voting for Democrats?
Absolutely.
So you don't think that black people, black conservatives, have the right to be individuals?
Oh, no, they have
and
the right,
think and
and
do
I have
for
the right to
themselves,
disagree. Yeah.
And think and do for themselves.
Oh, they can totally do what they want. I have the right to complain about it.
So why are you
Free
putting
country.
them down for standing and being individuals?
It's not so much that I'm doing it for them being individuals. I'm putting them down for making bad decisions.
So you're saying blacks don't have the common sense to make good decisions for themselves?
A lot of people don't.
So he painted himself in a bit of a corner there, because what he's saying is that we can make the decisions for you. What is scaring the white liberal the most right now is the fact that black people are for Donald Trump. A lot of black people are going that direction. Now, it's not nearly, obviously we're not there yet, but it is terrifying right now when you hear a black person say they're for Trump, or just a conservative period. Forget Trump. A conservative period. That puts fear in them, because you don't want to lose that base. They don't want black people thinking as an individual. As he's trying to keep us in a group mentality. That's why they have Black Lives Matter and all that stuff, to keep us feeling like we need to have a movement, a leader, a group. We can only work as a group.
He revealed himself.
Easy. Yep. He
You know
sure
what I'm
did.
saying? When he thinks he knows better than black people.
Yep.
He thinks he knows better than a black man.
Yep.
And it's because he's been able to, infiltrate himself into the black community and be able all these social programs, welfare, this reform. You know what I mean? Clarence Thomas at his confirmation hearings, because he believed that the Nita Hill things, that what was going on with Nita Hill was a setup, because he was a Republican and he was being confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. And he said, I think it was
He called it like a new lynching, a new
form of lynching.
Yeah,
like a dog whistle to people saying that any uppity blacks who want to think for themselves, you be careful.
Yeah.
Because we'll take you down.
We'll take you down.
And so this is what happens when you become a black conservative, because black conservatives don't they don't lean on victimhood, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, particularly white liberals,
Right?
Because their whole ideology is based on us feeling sorry for ourselves and them us needing them.
This is why we keep saying stop with the victim attitude, because if it's just making them, you're doing what they're wanting you to do. They're keeping you in your place. So when you maintain this mindset of, the white man's got me down, the systemic racism, these are all like a hand clap. They're doing secret hand claps back there going, okay, they're still thinking this way. What we're saying is that we are not victims. I do not feel like I am less than anyone, or anyone's more than me. White supremacy, what? They're not superior. No. Jesse's smart. He's calling this out.
I don't like
How about the black
whites who,
conservatives? They don't have the common sense to make decisions for themselves?
I would say that being a black conservative pretty much categorically means you don't have much common sense, yeah.
Why do you hate black conservatives?
I hate all conservatives, but black conservatives, because they have the gall of being conservative while having experienced more apropos than any other group in this country what it means to be under the heel of a white supremacist state. it seems to me they're the ones who should have the greatest interest in voting against it.
Trigger word, white supremacist. He got the trigger word. You know, bing, bing, bing,
use
bing,
those
bing.
words on racist
Yep.
because you can paralyze black people when you use the word racist.
Racism, white supremacy. I'm telling you,
They-
those are the two words. Whenever you hear liberals say
Buzzwords.
this, yep. Whenever you hear liberals say this, and they say supremacy and racism, that's the trigger. They know that that's what we want to hear. He's not following with
And see, Jesse,
yeah. Go ahead.
He's used to being around black people who think like him.
Yes.
He's not used to being around black people who think independently.
Yeah.
And so now he's uncomfortably switching around in his seat. He can barely sit still. It's because he's used to the talking points, the things that he's been told, and they always work. But that's just because he's around black people who usually go, we always get pulled over. He's used to that rhetoric. But when he gets around a black person that's an entrepreneur who's saying, I want limited government, I want to run my own life, I like the Constitution.
All right.
Then they don't know where to go.
Yeah. It's like, uh-oh.
They get angry and frustrated, and with the way he deals with it, he's being cocky and condescending.
And Jesse's relentless, so he's not going to let him do it.
Do you believe that America has always been a white supremacist state?
Since day one.
How is it that when I was growing up, under the Jim Crow laws, on a plantation, that black people did better than they are today? They had families, they got married, abortion was unheard of, they bought land, they built businesses, they became professionals, they went to college, those that wanted to go, and they did very, very well. If America is a Nazi country, why were blacks able to do better then than they are today?
Because white folk got more clever. Yeah, back in the day, way they discriminated against blacks, all on the books. Black people can't use this school, this water fountain. Nowadays, they're much more clever. Drug war, systemic deregulation of certain industries, stripping funds from ghettos. That way, you keep the blacks in line, but you do it without a single racist law in the books. And things have gotten worse, you're right.
What is a Nazi?
I would say that a Nazi is somebody who believes in white supremacy, who believes that an international cabal of Jewish people are using immigration from the third world to propagate sort of the destruction of the white race.
Are you white?
I am.
Are you Jewish?
I am not Jewish.
But you're
I've
white.
been told I'm Jewish.
And so are you a Nazi?
I am not a Nazi.
And what made you not? Why is it that you're not a Nazi? You're white and you live well, and you're doing well, you live in Beverly Hills.
I love black people.
Why is
so
it that you're not? You don't love black people.
I do love
No.
black people. I love them,
You
and I
hate
love
black
you.
people.
I love black
No.
people. Why would I hate black people?
Because you recommend the worst for them instead of the good. And so black people black people have the right to complain about white people. Do they have the right to hate white people?
I don't like it. No, I don't like hating racial groups. Even if you're like super, I wouldn't support like Jews hating Egyptian people back in the Prince of Egypt days either. I just don't like.
So do black people have the right to hate white people?
They have the right. I don't like it.
He got uncomfortable when he's like, oh, so do you, the black people are allowed to hate the white people? He's like, ooh, I don't, you know why? Because he's like, wait a minute, that little person doesn't have any superiority. That is a victim. He has no right to hate me. I'm helping him. How dare you hate me? You know what I mean? So he can't say that. He doesn't believe black people should not like white people, right? I'm not saying this. I'm just saying that he didn't like that because whenever a black person speaks out and says they have a problem with what he's saying or with the way he's behaving, it's going to all of a sudden flip and make him feel like he's not superior. And he's trying to push this white supremacy.
Yeah, there's this idea that after slavery that we have this PTSD because of slavery. And the truth is what they don't talk about is there's like a 50-year gap. It's like we go from slavery to Jim Crow to the end of Jim Crow and then Civil Rights era. But there was this gap of time that a lot of people don't like to talk about. And the truth is that Black Wall Street was just not in. That wasn't just the only Black Wall Street.
Right.
Harlem was also an area where black people were thriving, but really, all through the country, black areas were thriving because of segregation. So we had our own stuff. We owned property. We owned land. Our homes were intact, and our wealth was going up. We were going the right direction until the Civil Rights era came. And then it became
integration.
Into the integration. As soon as we integrated, we started to leave areas that belonged to us and go into white places because we weren't allowed to go into white places. But there's always this idea that even white liberals try to do, but they try to make us think that for some reason we never progressed
I know.
from slavery, but we did.
But they,
We
yeah,
absolutely
they keep talking
did.
about it.
It wasn't until the Welfare Act was signed by LBJ that a lot of cities, black, especially particularly in the black community, it devastated almost every race of people, but particularly the black community. We went to the welfare system, and it broke up our homes. And when you break up a home, as Barack Obama says, you break up a home, you break up wealth. You break up the family, you get the man out of the house.
That's it.
You demolish the income. So a lot of other things came in play too. Also, the women's rights, women going to work.
That's also the woman out of the home. It's taking the jobs from the men.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things, a lot of components.
But it also takes women away from raising kids at home.
So a lot of elements that are happening here. A lot of economists are saying that integration would have naturally happened. This is what like studies are showing right now. Is that integration would have naturally happened. So we were black people owned their own things because we had to, like you were saying, we had to own our own things because we weren't allowed to be in this diner. We weren't allowed to be in this movie theater or this part of town, you know. So black people just did for themselves. Now doing that empowered black people because it just basically
made us entrepreneurs.
Made them entrepreneurs, just automatic entrepreneurs. Now, when it comes to eventually we're in the same country. So eventually we would have had to come together. We're gonna have to come together at some point. Right? Now what they're saying now is that even Jessie in his world, when he grew up in a plantation, the South Alabama, in the South, and he was saying there was, and I'm hearing this a lot too from people from that time, that white people and black people were starting to get along. They weren't pushing that. You guys wouldn't have heard that. I didn't, right? I've always heard that the South is horrible and bad, right? And the white people were just killing people, black people all over the place, right? And I'm not saying that didn't happen. It still was happening. Things were still happening. But the natural integration would have happened anyway just because of business.
Yeah, Thomas Sowell said
that.
Thomas
economists are
saying
saying
that,
this,
that economy has a way of making people come to their senses.
Yes, it does.
And
money
that is what was happening. This is something they don't talk about in the South. That was what was happening in the South. A lot of the Jim Crow laws were starting to fall off anyway.
Because, naturally.
Because business-wise, it's better if white people can come to your businesses. It's better if black people can shop from white people.
I forgot his name, but Booker T. Washington's protege in the early 1900s, he went to Harlem at a time where it's not good to be black, you know, and he bought a building. Color didn't really matter because he had the money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what my point is that money matters. At the end of the day, when it comes to the economy, white people were willing to work with black people because of money. Even if they didn't like black people, it didn't really matter. If it's for the betterment of making money and getting the economy going, that's kind of all that matters. So that means that integration would have naturally happened. Like Kara was saying, Jim Crow was falling. Those laws were kind of at least that mindset was falling off anyways because of business.
Yeah.
So when economists talk about this, it's very interesting because it's like, you know, why didn't we ever think this? There's no way we can be in the same country and eventually not come together. It couldn't be segregated forever. Yeah. Obviously, like you said, if you're thinking sensibly and logically, obviously that was going to fall off anyways.
Yeah.
You know.
I think we don't understand our history the way that we should. It's been told to us differently and wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? We don't talk about the fact that Africans enslaved each other. Africans enslaved each other and sold us to they enslaved each other, and then they took the excess of us and sold us to the colonizers and the Muslims. They sold most of us to the Muslims, and when the Muslims took them, the men castrated them so they couldn't reproduce, and they kept the women as concubines.
Right.
I don't think Louis Farrakhan talks about that.
Right,
but they don't really teach that in school.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? They had us thinking like it was like on that movie Roots, like white people were going into the jungles and grabbing black people. That's not what happened. What happened was black people enslaved each other and sold, because white people could just go in that part of Africa.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they had inside help. They sold us for things like mirrors and weaponry and some of the smallest gin.
Yeah, gin.
They would sell us for that. You know what I mean? But even when you get to America, black people own black people in America.
They did. People tell you that.
That's something that's
inconvenient truth.
But that is true. Black people own their world. If you had money, because black slavery first of all, slavery is not new. It's not a new concept to America. It's not like it's just only America did this. It's been for thousands of years. Yeah. Slavery has been a thing. You know what I mean? And the thing is, if you can afford a slave, you bought a slave, and I'm sorry, black people did too.
Yeah.
If you were a black person that could afford a slave, you bought a slave. You know what I mean? But we don't talk about those things. For some reason, we don't want to. And I don't understand. If we're going to talk about the story, we need to talk about the whole story. And I don't understand why we do that, but I do think that the Liberal Party, I think white liberals like this, they like to use that concept because, you know, to keep it real, the Democratic Party has been a thorn in our ass for many years. I mean, because they were the party of slavery. Right. They were the party of Jim Crow. They were the party of the Klan started for the Democratic Party to keep blacks in line to get them to vote for the Democratic Party. You know what I mean? So they have really been a part. And I think that's the reason why they do stuff like this now. And like Joe Biden trying to get all black women.
You ain't black if you don't.
You ain't black if you don't vote for me.
You ain't black.
Yeah, if you telling Charlamagne the God, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. But then also, you know, giving black women his press secretary, his
vice president,
and his Supreme Court nominee was a black woman. And I think they're trying to do is sort of be the savior of black people because they have been a part of so much detriment to black people in the past.
And I also feel like black people have to be willing to hear things that you're not really
wanting to hear,
and then shutting it down immediately when you hear it. Okay, so you know, I know there's an Uncle Tom. I think it's gonna be Uncle Tom 3 coming. If you guys haven't seen Uncle Tom 2, it's very informative. They come with a lot of receipts. I know. I believe in not just taking the word of something, you know, without you doing your own thing, you know, researching it. So, but it does kind of break down. It's kind of like relearning Black history, because when you break down what we know now about slavery going into, you know, the Jim Crow and all, and the civil rights, it you can see, like you were saying, there's like this gap they don't want to talk about. You know, and that gap is important to talk about. Yeah. But the gap doesn't fit with the narrative that men like this, the guy in the video, it doesn't fit the narrative that he's trying to push and other liberal people. They're trying to make sure that we stay on you guys were enslaved and you should be pissed at that still. And what's happening right now, when you're talking about Joe Biden having the black vice president woman, the black Supreme Court justice woman, the black press secretary woman. So that's all, obviously, it's all there to pander, right? And he's choosing black women because he's realizing, a lot of them are realizing that black men are loyal. Yeah, black men are like teetering over to the other side, or if anything, becoming independent now, in their political thoughts.
Which is I can see that because the statement of him making his vice, because he, you know, when Joe Biden made his vice president black, he said he was going to pick a black woman. Yeah, he didn't tell us who he was going to pick, but he made a point telling us that. Then when when Psaki, the white press secretary, he made sure he picked another black woman. Yeah. When he said he was going to pick his Supreme Court nominee, he said he was going to pick a black woman, and so what he's doing is putting black women ahead of their men. Yes. That is an absolute agenda. So they're losing the black men and women separate.
And they're losing the black men politically. The liberals, the Democrats, they're losing the black men politically. It's, again, long way to go, but the numbers are going in the wrong direction. Let's put it that way. They're going in the wrong direction. So now they have to double down on the black women thing, because they know that's the base. The base is there. And, you know, I feel like when I see stuff like this, it just makes me, I like how Jessie handled this, because he's making him nervous, because Jessie is not tolerating it, and he can see through what he's doing. And when Karen and I first saw this, we can immediately see, like, it's a longer video.
It makes me sick.
Yeah, and I'm going to put the link to the entire video down, because there's more to this down below. But it is kind of like, it's a little sickening to watch this man.
How pathetic he thinks we really are.
He thinks we're pathetic, and that we need to have a group. We need to have white help. We need to have, blah, blah, blah. You know, we need to have all stuff from white people, and we're going to help you figure out how to do that.
And by the way, when you look at a lot of these groups, the NAACP was headed and created by a white liberal. You know what I mean? And so is BLM. Mm-hmm. And funded also. So, you know, you'll find a white liberal behind all of these black things. Crazy. Gay people don't even vote for the Democratic Party the way we do. there's some sort of weird brainwashing that's happened because it's in our schools. If you go to a public school,
yeah.
you know, colleges, especially black colleges,
It's in there.
you know what I mean? It's there's this allegiance to this party that keeps us all stuck in this brainwashing sort of feeling, and I don't like it. When I look at guys like this, it makes me sick.